Hello there. I am in this video going to show you the quickest, simplest way to take players in your Dynasty mode and force transfer them to any school you want without them needing to sit out a year or anything weird like that, and they'll just be able to join their new team's depth chart and start playing right away. For this, you'll just need a couple quick things. You'll need, I suggest, EADB Editor 2.0. You'll need Zan's Dynasty configuration file, which comes within that editor, so you should already have that if you already have the aforementioned editing program. A good place to keep track of your transfers, like a document of some kind, spreadsheet, Word doc, whatever, and Google Sheets or some other equal spreadsheet program to use. So the first thing I will do is you will have a file that will look something like this that you're keeping for yourself, where you're keeping track of your transfer and you're trying to find that player's player ID number and the school number as well, and do the same thing for the player that's going to be taking their place as part of the transfer. So you're just doing an even swap. The player that you intend to transfer and then someone to take his place on his former team. So what you'll do next is head over to the DB editor after opening your configuration, your Dynasty configuration file, and your Dynasty save, and you will just go in here and find your player that you're going to be transferring, copy his ID number and his name, and make note of the team ID that where his old school is, and do the same thing for the school that he's going to be transferring to. So you have the player ID number and the team ID for both players, so you can complete the transfer. So I've already done that here, so I already have Zach Calzada. I'm just going to be doing this last one here on the transfers. This is the last transfer I plan on making before I start my new season. And you'll do this transfer process. For me, the best place for me that I like to do it is right before the season starts, right before you hit start season, right after you generate your recruiting class. At that point, the depth charts for the teams will have already been created, so you'll see who's lost position battles, so you'll get a better sense of what players would want or need to be transferred. So that's when I like to do it. So right before you hit start season. And so I've already got Zach Calzada's player ID number, the ID number for his old team, Texas A&M, which is 93, and the team that he's going to be going to, Florida State, whose team ID number is 28, and the player that he's going to be swapped with, which is Justin Brown, and his player ID. He is just simply the lowest rated quarterback on their roster. That's all I do, is I just find the lowest guy in the totem pole for whatever position that for the player that I'm transferring, just so I have someone to take back when you are transferring a player. So I have that all set, and you can do this for numerous players at the same time, the same process. You just export the file that you're making at the end, and you can just then mess around with the depth chart later on. I'll show you how to do that. So what you'll do now is, once you have the players you're going to be transferring, their player ID numbers and the team ID numbers, etc., you go over to I/O to export, go to export, go to all visible, and then find player ID, hit X, and I'll just choose one that I just recently did to overwrite, but you can name it whatever you want. Hit save. All right, then you'll have that. Really simply just go back over to Google Sheets and go up to File, hit Import, click on Upload, find where the file is located, transfer players 3. It's a CSV file that you're looking for to import. Okay. And I click on replace current sheet. Maybe there's another way to do it, but that's the way I do it. Hit import data. It just takes a second for the sheet itself to populate. Okay, so this is the roster CSV file from the editing program that is exported that you can now edit on this side, on the Google Sheets side of things. So what I like to do to make things as simple as possible for myself, you want to make sure that when you are finished here and you are downloading this file and then injecting it back into the editing program, that you want to keep the first row identical to how it appears when you imported it into the Google Sheets program in the first place. You want to keep play and PGID at the very top here. If you move things around, just make sure that at the very end, when you're all done with this and you're going to put it back in your editing program, before you do so, just make sure it looks like this. Okay, so the first thing you're going to want to look for is you're going to want to scroll over and grab the players' first and last names. Just drag it to the front. Just drag it to the front of the sheet. And do the same thing with the last name. Okay. And the next thing you're going to look for is going to be the code for player ID, which is simply PGID. So you're going to go through the roster CSV file and look for PGID. It's a little ways in here somewhere. There it is. So it's going to be row AI. Just grab it and drag it to the front and just make that the new third column. And the other thing is going to be TGID. That's for the team ID number. So you're going to find that in here. And I think it's AJ, in fact. Yep. So here it is. And you're just going to bring that, make that the new fourth column. All right. And what I do then is, just to make sure that things are in the proper order so you're able to quickly do this, is you take the player ID column and you just go up to data and resort it, resorting the column A through Z in that way. Okay, so now everyone's sorted by their player ID number. And when you do that, and there's probably a faster way to do that than how I just did it, you want to go ahead and take the key that shows all the IDs, the letter IDs, and you just want to put that right back on top so you can find these when you're searching. So row above, and just put that right back up there. Okay, so now that everything is organized, the next thing I'll do is go over to where I'm keeping the transfers, the transfer data, so the players and their teams. So I'm looking for Zach Calzada's place on the roster file. So he's 6519. So I just go down to 6519 here, where you see column C, 6519. Okay, and there is Zach Calzada. And you'll see in column D there, it says 93. That corresponds to his team ID. We know that already. And all the players are organized based on their team. They're all in the same sequence. So you're going to see all the players on Texas A&M all sequentially follow the same number pattern and be next to 93, which is Texas A&M. So all you do simply is you just take the player who is going to be taking his spot, Justin Brown, and just grab the player ID number, which is 2013. And all you do is replace it and do the same thing with Florida State's team ID, which is 28. And you find where the replacement player is. So you look who Zach Calzada is replacing. 2013. So you go up to 2013. And there's Justin Brown. And you take Zach Calzada's ID number and remember 93 for Texas A&M. And that's all you do. You just replace it. And I have poor short-term memory, 93. And that's all you do. So 93, and those players are swapped. You can do that with any number of players, and once you're all finished, you just simply just make sure, like I mentioned at the beginning of the video here when we pulled up this Google Sheet, that this line right here that says play and PGID is where it was when you first opened this file here. So to do that, you just insert a row above. Grab these, put them where they were when we opened the file, and that's all you need to do. So from there, you just go over to File, Download as a CSV file, and you'll have that now, and then you just go back over to the editing program. And you'll do this 3 times. So you'll see here, when you click on player data, it'll have 4 sub-tabs. You're just worrying about the first 3. You're not worrying about injuries at this stage. I'm not sure if that would change if you decide to do this later on in your season, but for the sake of when I do it, which is before the season starts, you'll see that injuries isn't even populated yet. So you just click on player stats, click on I/O again. Now click import, overwrite existing, and find the CSV file that just came in, which is right here for me. So wherever it is for you. And this process will take a few minutes, depending on how fast your computer is. So you just simply overwrite player stats. And then when that's finished, you do the same thing for player info and then player unknowns. And I'll just skip ahead for when this is done. Okay, so once that finishes, you'll again have taken that CSV file and use the same exact CSV file to write over the player stats tab, the player info tab, and the player unknowns tab. You'll move over now to team data. You'll click on depth chart, and you will find Texas A&M. And what I'm going to do just really quick is just resort everything so I'm able to quickly find the player that I want. So I'm not searching through all the positions, just looking through the quarterbacks. And I'm just looking for Texas A&M. There we are. And there is Zach Calzada. And all you need to do is just you don't need anything special here. Just start repeating the player ID for Zach Calzada, because that now will be the new players tab, his replacements tab. So 6519. Just start typing it, and then just press the down arrow on your keyboard, and there's Justin Brown. And you just simply reorder him on the depth chart, so he'll now be number 2. Of course, number 0 is the starter, so he'll be the lowest person in the depth chart. and go over to Florida State. And then you'll jump over to Zach's new team, and you're going to want to put him on Florida State's depth chart. So you'll just simply grab his new player ID number, which is Justin Brown's old one, which is 2013. And just start typing in 2013. Press down, and it will automatically fill in that cell with Zach Calzada, and just reorder him. So he'll now be the starter. This guy will be third string, and this guy will be second string. And that's all there is to it. And you just do that for as many players as you are attempting to transfer now, and you'll be all set. Go ahead and save your file. And that's all you need to do. And go ahead and encrypt it, put it back into your game, and you should be all set as far as those players having automatically transferred. You just swapped 2 players, and that's all there is to it. So everything should work out for you. Please feel free to drop me any questions, or if you run into any issues in the Discord. This has been Superkick SD. Let me know if you have any issues. Otherwise, enjoy.